My name's Greg. I'm a principal developer at Solace, and this is my colleague Cyrus. You're a senior developer, I guess, now? So, yeah. So today we're going to talk about Solace Agent Mesh, which is a new product that we've been working on. I'll just point out before we get into the meat of the talk, we do have prizes. So if you do build a Solace Agent Mesh project, are there 2 prizes or
3 prizes?
3 prizes. Okay, that total $3,500. So there's a good incentive there if you want to try out the Solace Agent Mesh. So what is Solace Agent Mesh? So it's an open source agent orchestration platform built on A2A protocol, which that's a very dense statement. So I'm going to unpack it a bit. So first one, open source. So all the code is in GitHub. It's Apache 2 license. You can download, do whatever you want with it. Agent, so it's an agentic framework. So you're going to use AI, generative AI to build your AI agents. Orchestration, so you're going to have multiple agents that are in play and we're going to orchestrate them to accomplish some goal. So it's a platform, so you can use it for whatever you want. You want to improve your business, you want to take over the world, you know, as long as you abide by the Apache 2.0 license, we're cool with that. And then it's built on top of A2A, so we wanted to use an open protocol to do this. And Google just came out with this A2A about, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, and it seems to be really catching on. So one thing I will add is that 90+% of the team is here in Ottawa. So if you wondered if there's any agentic platforms being built in Ottawa, there is. So, and I don't know of any others that are doing something at this scale anyway. So what are AI agents? So AI agents are like smart digital assistants. They perceive triggers, so there's some input. They reason through the problem, so they look at your input and they try to figure out what to do. They plan, they adapt based on the context, and they act to achieve a specific goal. So there's like a tool use there, or you know, they're trying to do something to help you accomplish your goal. Now the real beauty is when you put many of these together, then they can start to collaborate and divide up tasks, share information, coordinate responsibilities, and solve complex problems. So you'd have a bunch of agents, they each specialize in one thing, and then we can orchestrate through a workflow using those agents. And one of the cool things about the Solace Agent Mesh is it's built on our Solace Event Mesh, which means it's very easy to distribute agents. So if you want to run agents in the cloud, agents on your laptop, agents in your data center, they all connect into this event mesh in the middle, and then they can all easily collaborate with each other. So we're trying to solve one problem, which is point-to-point integration. So if you look at the A2A protocol itself, it's actually built on HTTP. And it's kind of difficult because when you add a new agent, you have to tell all the other agents about that agent, right? Which can be cumbersome unless you want to set up a discovery service where you can register with the discovery service, but that's kind of cumbersome too because now you have to maintain another service. Whereas with the Solace Agent Mesh, in the middle, you're running the Solace Event Mesh, which is basically, it could be one broker or many of our brokers. And it uses a pub-sub-based communication with queues. So what happens is all of these agents in the ring there will be listening on a specific topic, like we have a well-known topic. And then when a new agent joins, it advertises itself on that topic. So it publishes a message. It says, hey, I'm here. I'm a web search agent. Here are my capabilities. Here's how you use me. So it advertises that. And then all the other agents that are listening on that topic will get that information. And then they can add that to their arsenal. So they'll know if they get a task that involves web search, then they can just hand it off to that agent. They can delegate and have it do its thing. So that's up to the orchestrator to figure out. And I'll get into that in a second. So what are the SAM components? So, okay, this slide is not rendering properly. Yeah, but see, it's offset. Can we drop out of presentation mode just temporarily? Here we go. Okay, so these are all the components in the Solace Agent Mesh. So the middle of it is the event mesh, which I mentioned is like Solace Broker, pub sub based with queuing. There's gateways. So gateways are like the entry point into the Solace Agent Mesh. So we have many gateways right now. So the easiest one to use is just like a web UI, like a chat interface. You just ask it questions. It comes in through the gateway to enter the system. There's also REST API if you want to interact with REST. If you have maybe tooling, you want to call it from a script or something like that. We have Slack. We have event mesh itself. So if there's events in the event mesh that you want to use to trigger other workflows, you can do that. Webhooks. So there's a bunch of gateways there. So once it enters the system, typically the first thing it does, it goes to the orchestrator. Now, if you look at other frameworks, they're typically made up of fixed flow orchestration. So you say call agent A, and the output of agent A goes to agent B and whatnot. And they're kind of brittle because if one of the agents gives you back something you're not expecting, then you're sort of dead in the water. So instead, we decided to use a dynamic workflow with the orchestrator. So the orchestrator looks at the request that comes in, it looks at the agents that it has available to it, and then it comes up with a plan. Okay, first I'm going to call that agent, and then I'm going to call, agent B and agent C. But if agent B gives it back something it's not expecting, then it can actually adapt to that and say, oh, I wasn't expecting this output. So instead of agent C, I'm going to call agent D. So the orchestrator, so back to your question about conflicts. So the orchestrator is going to make the best decision that it can based on the agents that it has available to it. So like I was saying before, all of the agents will start advertising themselves. Like once they come online, they say, I'm a web search agent, I'm any type of agent. And the orchestrator will look at that list of agents that it has, and it looks at the request that comes in, and then it comes up with a plan. Sorry? No, in this case, it's another agent. So it's basically an orchestration agent, and it will do all this using LLMs in the background. So we use generative AI for all this stuff, right? So you do a call out to an LLM, say, here are my different agents that I have access to. Here's the request that comes in, and then it starts planning what to do. So also, we have data management. So this is an anti-pattern that I see in a lot of other platforms as well, is if you have an agent that generates a big PDF file, what it does in the next step is it takes that PDF file and shoves it into the LLM, right, to try to figure out what to do. And that's costing you a lot because you have a lot of tokens going through. But it's also difficult for the LLM to figure out if you give it a ton of data like that. So instead, we have an artifact service so that if your agent generates like a big PDF, it puts a link to that to the PDF in the chat so that the LLM knows about it, and it can request parts of it maybe if it wants. So we're not taking like entire files and shoving them into the LLM. We have some tooling that can basically massage the data before it goes into the LLM. And then we have a visualizer, which gives you observability and explainability. So one of the hard parts with these dynamic flows is understanding what's happening under the hood. So we have a visualizer built in so that you can look at every step in the flow to understand, okay, I sent this to the LLM, it gave me back that, and then it decided to call that agent. So you can sort of look through the entire flow to figure out what's happening. And then we've got agents. So we have some Solace provided agents that we built that are part of the framework, but you can also build your own custom agents to do whatever you want to do, call REST APIs, interact with databases, like that type of thing. Also, we support A to A agents. So if you built an agent using the A to A protocol, then we can interop with SAM, as well as if you write Amazon Bedrock agents, can also interop. And for tool calling, we support MCP, which makes life a lot easier because I know that's the way a lot of the tool calling is going these days. Lastly, we have AI services. So we use Light LLM Client, which basically is a abstraction for basically all of the big LLMs that you can call. So it will do some interoperability for you, so you don't have to worry whether you're calling Gemini, Anthropic, OpenAI, like any of these guys. So here are some repos. So the first one is Solace Labs, Solace Agent Mesh. So that's the main repo where the Solace Agent Mesh lives. Yeah, okay. Oh, you can look at that after. So like I said, it's freely available, Apache 2.0. We'd love it if you give us a star. We're a local company, so we try to do a lot for the community too, so just building up the case there. We also have another repo, Solace Labs, Solace Agent Mesh core plugins. So these are some plugins that include agents and gateways that Solace itself supports. And there's also Solace Community, Solace Agent Mesh plugins, which are community supported plugins. So, and I think, is everyone going to get a link to this? Okay, so everyone will get a link to these. So, how are we doing for time? Okay, so we'll look at some common agentic patterns. So there's basically three main patterns. One is like, oh yeah, we can go back into, right. So the first one is like user interacting with the system. So that's like a chatbot style interface. The second is an event triggered assistant. So that could be like some event from like a webhook or from your Solace Agent Mesh. And the last is agentic automation. So these are things that just happen dynamically. So some examples. So for the first one, you could say, give me the Q1 results versus the budget by region. And this will go off and figure out what databases it has to do, what operations, democratizes access to the insights, which means I don't have to remember that big long SQL command. Is that a outer left join this and that? What's the key? Don't care. The LM is going to figure all that stuff out for me. The second one is event triggered assistant. So order submission on web page creates an event which can maybe enrich your data. So if you have someone comes on your website, they buy something, it triggers a flow that maybe goes and looks up their address in a database and then enriches the data, and that just happens automatically. You don't have to do anything in that case. And then the third one is agentic automation. So this is maybe you have a cron job or something that runs at 10 a.m. or whatever every morning and backs up your database, or you can put in some complex workflows in there. Pardon me? So right now, I find in general, it's mostly user interaction. That's sort of where we are now. But I see things going more towards the second two as it gets more mature, as it gets into more like enterprise business practices and stuff. But yeah, for now, I think people just have to get comfortable with the chatbots and whatnot. Okay, and getting started. So like I mentioned, in the middle of this is an event mesh. We have what we call dev mode, which is like just some Python code that pretends it's an actual event mesh. Or if you want, you can get your very own free event mesh in the cloud. And who doesn't like free things, right? So if you go to this URL, sign up for a trial account. Oh, I guess it's got the rest of the steps hidden. Sign up for the trial account. You can create a new broker service. It gives you the credentials that you can use. So when you spin up Solace Agent Mesh, then you can have your very own event mesh. So with that, I will hand it over to Cyrus.
All right. Just on one note here, we have a QR code at the end that takes you to a resources page. Everything you see here is there. This PowerPoint will also be posted there. So let's get started with how to actually start using SAM. So Greg talked about what SAM is, how it works on the higher level, but let's go to the coding level. So the prerequisites, we need Python 3.10 plus. And a Solace broker, we say it's optional because the dev mode technically gets you up and running, but one of the main reasons we even built this framework from in the first place was to make it use event systems, to make it be powered by EDA, event-driven architecture. So the first step would be basically creating a Python environment and activating that and installing the Solace Agent Mesh repeat. So I just did these two commands. So I just created the environment and installed it. I did it before this because I want it takes some time. It's like, oh yeah, there we go. So all I have done so far is just created a virtual environment, activated it, and installed the Solace Agent Mesh. So The next step would be basically to initialize SAM. So for that, when you install the Solace Agent Mesh, you also get the CLI. To access the CLI, you can either just type the whole Solace Agent Mesh or SAM for short. Let's get it started by running the init. Actually, I guess I have a slides afterward. I will just do it in example demo. So you would initialize it, and once you have the initialization, you basically get the basic web UI interface, and you would get the orchestrator. So any other agents that you would want or any other interfaces that you would want to add, you have to add afterwards. You could either create your own gateway or agent from scratch, or you can just use one of our plugins. Also for the plugins, we have another GUI dashboard, which you can just install them with a click of a button. I will again go through them. And at the end, you just do SAM run, and yep, your system will be up and running. So now I want to talk about some SAM agents. So for the agents, the system comes with a series of built-in tools. These tools could be like editing images, generating images, creating audio files, doing web research, creating charts, a whole bunch of things. The system comes built in with them. You can just activate them very easily by just adding them to the YAML configuration. The system also supports MCP protocol natively, so you can easily, if you're making a very complicated workflow, just make an MCP and add it to the system. Or if you're already using something like Tavily, Bright Data, or Atlassian, or any service that already has an MCP, you can just grab their MCP, add it here, and all of the tools will be automatically loaded. And the last option is just write your own custom Python function. So, and it's pretty straightforward. Also, you can have like I have seen one of the people write code in Java and then convert that into an MCP and use that MCP here. Totally works. So let's go to the next steps, the gateways. So the gateways are basically the interfaces to the system. And the SAM itself comes with two gateways, the web UI, which is primarily would be your most use case, the most interface that you would be using to chat with the system, unless you're building a very specific thing, unless you like want to through Slack, Discord, or Microsoft Teams, or you want it to be triggered when something happens. For interacting with the system, that's a very good web UI, and you have a very good analytics and like visualization. I will go again for those into the demo. And then we have a custom HTTP SSC gateway, which powers also the web UI. And there's a list of series of plugins that you can install. Among those, we have the REST gateway. So if you already have your own application, maybe you have a website, maybe you have an Android app, iOS app, or whatever, and you already have them and you just want to connect them to the system, you can just use the REST gateway to make a simple post request and get back the result from the system. Or you can just build your own. I mean, creating a gateway is not as easy as creating an agent. It's a bit more difficult, but still you can do that quite easily. The next thing is the plugins. So as mentioned, we have two series of plugins. We have the core plugins that I will show the website later. It's a whole bunch of plugins there. We have like to connect to a Mongo database, to connect to a SQL database, to connect to AWS Bedrock for geoinformation, for event mesh stuff, having a very comprehensive rack system. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And we just started our community projects because we have starting multiple hackathons. So this is also a great place if you want to contribute to us. Like if you're building something with Agent Mesh and you're making your own plugin, just make a PR to this repository. For now, we created few simple plugins. One is to connect to Tavily, and another one is to connect to Bright Data, as they're also the other sponsors for the upcoming hackathon. So it just makes it a bit easier for you to integrate with the other sponsors. And now let's get into actually examples and running. So before that, I just want to quickly show the repository. So this is the Solace Lab, Solace Agent Mesh. This is our primary repository, which all of the codes are. We have two other repositories, which would be Solace Agent Mesh core plugins, which you can see some of the plugins that we have here right now. And at the end, we have the very new, freshly created 2 days ago repository that has the plugins for currently Bright Data. And someone added Find My IP 6 hours ago. I didn't even know that it was there. And Tavily. So now let's get started creating a very basic Solace Agent Mesh, adding the Tavily plugin there, running some web searches, and that would be it. So let's check on time. We have time. So I'm just going to start by creating a new directory. I'm just calling it AGIVC, AGI Ventures Canada, and checking into AGIVC. Next thing I would need to do, actually let me start a new terminal as well. Next thing I would need to do is basically just run I will just run SAM dash version to show if SAM is installed and what version of SAM we have here. The first time running this command, it takes a while because it has to cache it, but from the next time it will be super fast. I just installed it. So I'm just gonna give it a second for the caching to start. I am on a virtual environment, yes, that's why it's the first time it's seeing this command. So I'm right now on SAM version 1.0.6. We just yesterday released the 1.1 version, so I'm still making sure it's perfectly working. Just for the sake of the demos doesn't go wrong, I'm going with something that I have tested before, and that's why I'm using SAM 1.0.6. We would have we are having a debug testing session tomorrow, making sure everything works. But yeah, you're all good to use the 1.1. And now let's just init, and I'm just, because you can also do the CLI, but GUI makes life easier. So let's do sam dash init GUI, and it automatically opens the browser for you too. If it doesn't, you just open that link, but I'm just waiting here to open the browser for me. Opens the browser. So there are two pathways that you can get started with initializing. One is the advanced setup, which you can really fine tune a lot of details about SAM, or is I really want to see what SAM looks like. Let's go to quick setup. It's one step, that's it. I only ask for your LLM stuff, not much else. So you can use OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Azure, or any other thing, or any OpenAI compatible. So at Solace, we have a light LLM server locally, which has connected to everything. Now let me just copy my LLM key. You would not have this thing. It's just something I created, so I don't have to show my API key. So for here, this is just the models that we have. I'm going with Gemini 2.5 Pro for this demo, and I'm going to click next. This is going to make a simple hello message to the LLM, just making sure it works. If you get an error message here, you can just continue. Just know that your API key and address is invalid. You can fix it later. And yep, everything works. Initialize, we're done. So that was about all you would need it to get it started. So now let's see what's created. So you have your environment variable files. You have a source file. Basically, there is nothing there. Is if you are making your own custom gateway or custom agent from scratch, so they will be added there. We have the configs directory. Here you would see a shared config, which has some of the configuration that is like shared everywhere. Like here we create aliases for the model names. For example, we have planning, we have general. So in your different agents, you don't call like Gemini 2.5 Pro or something like that. You just say, oh, I want to use the planning model, or I want to use the general model. So it just creates an alias for them. So in case a new model, a better model comes and you want to use that one, so you just change the model here, and everyone in your agents are already using the alias. And there's some other things about session management, artifact management, and stuff like that. And we get two other files. So we get the orchestrator file. So all of the configuration for the orchestrator would be here. And then another file we get for the web UI. You don't really need to configure anything. And if you want to configure anything here, I would just suggest to go through the advanced setup and do it through the GUI. It would be much easier. But now let's add Tavilis plugin. So I'm just going there back, and everything was created. So I'm just going to the SAM plugin, and we have this command called catalog, which makes it super easy to install any plugin that you want. But there is one caveat here. So again, this also automatically opens the browser for you. Just waiting for the server to load. Okay, there we go. So you see all of the plugins that I mentioned earlier are here, but this only has by default, like when you start it, only scrapes our official plugins. And in case you want to add your own registry, or for example, in this example, you want to add this community plugins, I'm just going to copy the URL, go back, click on add registry, paste the URL, and maybe just name it Solace community, add registry. It's going to scrape it, and it's going to find all of those, and it has added them. So yes. You can add private repositories, you can add local, like it can be from GitHub, it can be from GitLab, it can be from like a directory, like a /home/user, something like that. Anywhere you can add a registry. This is just to give you like the GUI to install. Otherwise, there's command lines for all of these options. You don't really need to use GUI. Again, for demos, it's nicer to just say, oh, you want heavily, click install, give it a name, just call it heavily, super creative, and that's it. It's installed. Like you can do it through CLI. It's also one command, two commands. You have to install the dependency, but you can also combine them in one command. But there we go. We get our success message. Heavily has been installed. Let's see the repository and what has been changed. So we see here that in the heavily, we have added this new file. That's also very straightforward. I mean, you can read it. In the tools section, we have added an MCP, which just uses a heavily MCP. Now I just need a heavily token. So let's go to the website. I'm just gonna make a new token for this demo, call it a demo, create a new token. Let's copy that one. I'm just, okay, delete this one. I'm deleting all of the tokens just to be sure. So, yep, we can control C that one. Just to not expose my LLM API key, I'm just gonna add, so is the environment /a. So my env file is here. I'm just going to do echo, and what is this called? Heavily token equals copy. So I'm just adding that to my environment variables. Yeah, to the env. So added it there. And now let's just do some run. That's it. Let's see what does the system do. Well, the table token can easily just delete it by clicking here, so I don't care. The LLM keys is what I didn't want to expose, which is the trouble to delete and click new ones. You can delete them, but I just don't want to go through the trouble. And if I just refresh this page, making sure what, okay, Ctrl+Shift+R fixes the problem. So we see that now this is our web UI interface. First, we can go to the agents tab, and it shows you all of the agents registered. Let me just, for the sake of something cooler, show our actual, like this is one of the things that we run locally. This is the enterprise version, slightly different. But on our agents, we have like way more agents, and you can go like to the grid version, and it shows like we have orchestrator, and it's connected to everything. So this is a very simple architecture, but you can make them like orchestrator that has access to few agents, and those agents have access to more nested agents, and creates a whole architecture here. But like this is a more realistic scenario looks like. But for our quick demo here, we have the orchestrator and we have the heavily agent. You can click on it. You can see all of the tools that it loaded by the MCP. So all of these were loaded by the MCP. Some of them are from artifact management. Now let's try it. Search about AGI Ventures Canada Hackathon 3.0. So from here on, we are basically hoping heavily system works as well. But as we remember earlier, we said that we have a really good visualization that shows the system. And if I just click on this button, you get a live view of what the system is doing as it's doing it. And I can like just click on this heavily tool, see, oh, it's returning the results and it was such a success. I can just easily like see what was the prompt that was sent to the LLM. You can see all of that, see the responses, what it's doing. And yep, it sends us like a result and also generated a file. So there's a whole details. So in the details is going to be like there is a technical path, there's a general path, there's going to be a hackathon, and it's forwarded our link. So yeah, it pretty much knows everything. And that was just thanks to the Tavilis API. The system did not have access to the internet or anything before that by default. We just added this plugin, had access to the whole internet. So it's just that easy to add a new plugin to it. And we have already a whole bunch of plugins. And since we don't really have much time, so I don't really go into much other details. But one thing I just want to quickly add, actually, let me finish the PowerPoints. Okay. So here we have just a few examples of the things that you could do. For example, the Tavily, I just did a quick demo on that. We have the SQL database. Like if you have already a database from other stuff, you can create an agent, automatically creates the SQLs for you. And you can also set it to automatically detect the schema, other event mesh stuff, and resources. So this is a QR code that you might want to scan. And this will take you to our resources page. This will be blasted as well through the emails. It will also be posted to the Discord, but you will find a lot of resources there. Yes. And just, we have, 2 seconds. I just want to quickly describe something because plugins, this is our documentation page. Again, links to this is there. But one thing I want to say is whether you should use an agent or plugin, because you would see this a lot. So in our system, plugins are basically packaged agents. So if you have an agent that you want to be able to easily share, send it away and be packaged, version controlled and stuff like that, then you would use a plugin. For example, if you're working on a big project and you have common agents everywhere and you want them, for example, for having a Docker build and you want specific versions of that agents to be installed and keep all of those, it's a basically a plugin. So it's basically packaged, easily to share, but it adds a bit more, like if you just want to do dev, it adds a bit more hassle because now you have to build it, now you have to install it, now you have to do all of that. But agent is basically just load it from source code. Like that's it. Like there's Python code could be less secure. The dependencies are just your environment dependencies, but very easy to do, very fast. And that's basically the biggest difference. Like the plugin is just that package shipped for like production. Agent is, I want to just hack for this hackathon. I don't have really time to make a whole CI/CD pipeline for this. Yes. So Langsmith is a bit more lower level. So you're really doing a lot of Python. So here you're focusing on your use cases. So you can create an agent without writing a single line of Python code, like we just did. And you can also, when you're writing your Python code, you only focus on your own business logic. For example, I want your agent, you want to make this API call or run this script or make this thing. Your code is only doing that. I mean, if I don't really have time, but I can quickly show an example of a agent. So if I go to tutorials, you have build your own agent, and there is a simple weather agent. And so if you see the function that you're actually writing, this is a get weather thing. All the function is doing is just making an API call to the web, to the weather API, and that's it. So all the other framework and stuff, orchestrations, instructions, prompts, error handlings, all of those are handled by the framework. So all you do when you're creating a custom logic is, okay, I just want to make this API call, write it, that minimum code, and everything is taken care of for you.
How good is it at mapping schema right now?
So mapping like open API schemas?
More like open and like data streaming.
So those again goes to the power of the models underneath, but we also have a lot of data analysis and data manipulation tools. So for example, if you give it a JSON files, it can just write that JSON to a database, write a whole bunch of SQL queries, and then it'll give you the results back. So it does some crazy stuff. I don't really have enough time, but it's really good at report generation. So if you just ask it in your prompt, give me an HTML report, you will be amazed. I just don't have time to show any of those. All right, I guess that's it. If you guys have any questions, just ping us in the Discord channel and the Hackathon Mentor help. We will be there. Also, all of my other colleagues will be out there as well to help you out. And yeah, happy hacking.